60 Minutes Rewind.
You have heard of Pompeii, the ancient Roman city destroyed when Mount Vesuvius erupted in 79 AD. Less well known is the neighboring city of Herculaneum, also buried by the volcano. When the city was rediscovered in the 1700s, excavators found what could be the richest repository of ancient Western wisdom, a library filled with papyrus scrolls. Scholars think there could be unknown Greek and Latin masterpieces, possibly early Christian writings, even the first references to Jesus. The problem is, the volcanic heat left the scrolls so charred and brittle, no one has been able to open them without breaking them into pieces. We heard 3 scholars might finally have found a way to unravel the mystery of the scrolls. So we traveled to Italy to see what we could uncover about the scrolls of Herculaneum. The Italian city of Herculaneum sits along the Bay of Naples on the western slope of Mount Vesuvius. The city bustles with the chaos of Italian traffic and the easy flow of Italian life. It's not a wealthy place, but beneath these narrow streets lies buried treasure, the ancient Roman seaside town of Herculaneum, entombed along with Pompeii in 79 AD. The modern city is built on top of the ancient city.
There's no archaeological site in the world that matches this.
We went to Herculaneum with Andrew Wallace Hadrill, founding director of the Herculaneum Conservation Project. He showed us around the excavation site in all its ghostly grandeur. So what do you think is going on here? Were they trying to escape, or were they hiding?
In my view, they're not trying to get away by sea. They're simply trying to take shelter under these vaults.
Vesuvius blasted the town with successive massive surges of heat and ash for 24 hours.
Those surges, they kill all human life and all other forms of life. And then wave after wave, they begin to build up these layers of ash that compacts into rock.
Until we have this.
Yeah.
80 feet of...
80 foot of solid rock.
That ended up preserving this place so well.
Yeah. The paradox is that catastrophic destruction is also exceptionally good preservation.
Preserving Herculaneum like a fossil in amber. Everything frozen in time, forgotten for nearly 17 centuries, until, legend has it, a farmer digging a well struck the past.
They've built a really big public building here.
Hadrill told us Herculaneum was like the Malibu of the Roman Empire, oasis for the elite. Early excavators discovered this once opulent villa. Today, it looks like a cave. In 79 AD, it looked like this. The Getty Villa in Malibu, California, is a recreation of the summer retreat thought to belong to the family of Julius Caesar. Tunneling around in the ancient villa in Italy, early treasure hunters dug out statues and riches enough to fill a grand room in the Naples Museum. But the greatest treasures don't look valuable at all. These are the papyrus scrolls of Herculaneum, 1,800 ancient books written on sheets of plant fiber, flash-seared by the volcanic heat, found in the only remaining intact library from the ancient world. So where was the library?
The library was there.
The precarious villa excavation site is off-limits to the public, but Massimo Ossana, former administrator of Herculaneum and Pompeii, took us deep inside. The library itself has not been excavated like this.
No.
He said there could be hundreds more scrolls yet to be unearthed. No. Back in here, in the library.
It's a possibility. Maybe Aristotle. Who knows?
Aristotle.
Yeah.
Euripides.
Yeah.
Virgil.
For example.
Scholars have been trying desperately to open the scrolls since they were discovered.
The history of the unwrapping of the Herculaneum scrolls is littered with failures. Everyone who had tried to open the scrolls had left behind a hideous trail of fragmentary result.
Brent Seals, a brash computer scientist from the New World, the University of Kentucky to be precise, had what he thought was a brilliant idea to solve the 2,000-year-old mystery: use modern medical imaging technology.
People were going to the doctor every day and they were doing a CT scan or an MRI and they were seeing inside their body completely non-invasively. If you can do that to a human in the doctor's office, why couldn't we see inside a scroll? That was the thinking.
Didn't think it was that far-fetched.
No.
In the arcane world where academics spend their entire careers poring over fragments of ancient texts, Brent Seals is a superstar. He made his name digitally restoring damaged medieval manuscripts with software he had designed. A colleague told him about the scrolls of Herculaneum, most housed at the Library of Naples, a few others in France and England. He considered them the ultimate challenge.
The people are gone, the cultures are gone, the places are gone, and yet, like a time capsule, you have this item that tells a story.
All locked away in that thing that looks like a little lump of charcoal.
They're all locked away.
He knew imaging technology could only reveal a jumble of letters like this. To actually read the scrolls, he'd have to unroll them, much like this medieval French scroll at the Morgan Library in Manhattan. But he'd have to do this virtually. After years of trial and error, he and his students thought they'd cracked the code with algorithms and software. He was cocky enough to announce at Oxford to an international conference of scholars who study ancient papyrus that he could do what no one else had done.
I swung for the fence. I gave him a talk where I said, I think we can read everything inside the Herculaneum scrolls without opening them.
Did you think the papyrologists would come running to you with their scrolls and say, here, take a look at these?
I smile now because that is exactly what I thought.
Didn't happen.
No.
So how hard is it to get your hands on these scrolls?
I would say somewhere in the vicinity of nigh, near impossible.
That's because they're so rare and so fragile, curators are reluctant to let anyone handle them, including a superstar like Brent Seals. They wouldn't relent even after he published a paper theorizing a better way to peer inside the scrolls, with this, a synchrotron, a super powerful X-ray generated by electrons racing around this ring at almost the speed of light. There are only about 50 in the world. This one is in Britain. The X-ray is this green beam, 100 billion times stronger than any hospital X-ray. Maybe it's coincidence, but shortly after Seals published his pioneering paper,
just to give you an idea,
2 Italian scholars stepped forward and claimed they had had the same idea to use a synchrotron. Vito Micella, a physicist from Naples, says he first learned about the scrolls as a child.
I cannot remember exactly the age, but 9, 10.
And Graziano Ranocchia, a papyrologist. He studies ancient Roman papyrus. He pores over bits of Herculaneum scrolls at the Naples Library. Most are fragments of Greek philosophy.
I'm coming here and working on this papyri every day.
Call it academic competition, call it ego, but American Brent Seals, Ranocchia, the papyrologist, and Italian physicist Micella became fierce competitors, all fighting to make history as the first to reveal the contents of the scrolls. A gladiatorial wrestling match in the hallowed halls of the Ivory Tower. Ranocchia accuses Micella of sabotaging his research. Seals is convinced the Italians poached his idea to use the synchrotron. The mystery of the scrolls is playing out like some tragic Italian opera.
The story will continue after this.
You know, they say, Bill, that the reason academics argue is because the stakes are so low, right? The stakes actually are really high. If you think about the possibility of revealing these manuscripts to the world from 2,000 years ago that no one's ever read. And, okay, so now we're going to argue with each other? Really? I mean, maybe we could do that later, after we've read them.
But the two Italian rivals used their European connections and convinced curators to let each of them, and only them, have limited access to a few scrolls to scan with the synchrotron. They leapfrogged over American Brent Seals and raced to this one in Grenoble, France. Macella got there first.
What I don't know.
It was hard for us to make out, but he said his scan revealed letters.
These are letters.
Sì. Queste sono lettere.
Yes, he said, these are letters. Macella won international praise and headlines as the first person to see inside one of the ancient scrolls of Herculaneum. When papyrologist Ranocchia scanned his scrolls, he said he did Macella one better.
Has anyone else found anything as clear as this?
Nothing like this.
He said he saw phrases.
Pace theia, namely they would be persuaded. This is a...
Would be persuaded.
Yeah, right.
Brent Seals is not persuaded.
You don't believe that?
Hey, I engage in wishful thinking all the time. But at the end of the day, I'm a scientist, and wishful thinking is not what science is based on. I was unable to replicate their results, and so far I've not heard from anyone who's been able to replicate them.
But with their findings published in scientific journals, the Italian scholars savored their achievements. Macella considers Brent Seals' criticism sour grapes.
Brent Seals looked at your latest findings and he says he doesn't see any letters.
I know. I don't know why.
You don't know why?
I don't know why.
I guess my threshold is somewhat different. When I see writing, it should line up. It should be more than a letter or two. You ought to be able to see text that looks like something you can actually read.
Since he couldn't get access to the Herculaneum scrolls, Seals looked elsewhere to prove his algorithms and software. That led him to Jerusalem and this charred fragment, a 1,700-year-old scroll from a burned synagogue near the Dead Sea.
Is there a line up here?
Israeli archaeologists didn't expect much, but what Seals' software revealed was like a miracle.
What was it?
Well, it was the Bible.
He resurrected all the surviving Hebrew script, the oldest text of the Bible as we know it today.
The first 2 chapters of Leviticus in a scroll that prior to that was assumed to be nothing or so badly damaged, no one would ever know.
This is what you would hope to see in the Herculaneum scrolls?
Absolutely. This is actually an identifiable text.
Following his breakthrough in Jerusalem, even Graziano Ranocchia admits Brent Seals' software is brilliant. Now, the Naples Library, which wouldn't let Seals get his hands on the scrolls, is considering granting him access. He is convinced the secrets of Herculaneum, locked away in the scrolls for 2,000 years, are just within reach.